Patients with kidney diseases in Cameroon can barely afford treatment as the process becomes expensive daily, and medical doctors are calling on Cameroonian government to provide subvention in hospitals. There is an alleged cold war going on between MPs and senators. CPDM representatives met in Yaoundé today to promote harmonious relationship between the two houses of the assembly. These are the headlines. I will be right back. Good evening to you televiewers. Welcome to join us in the 6 p.m. the primetime newscast on Equinox Television. We kickstart the news with news from Yaoundé, where cardiologists from 16 countries are meeting in Yaoundé to discuss cardiovascular diseases. On the sidelines of the meeting, Roland Nakong met Professor Wale Muna, a cardiologist, to find out the causes, treatment, and prevention of cardiovascular diseases. His report.
Cardiovascular diseases remain the leading cause of mortality in Cameroon. At the Yaoundé Cardiac Society meeting, grouping cardiologists from 16 countries, we asked a renowned cardiologist, what's the problem?
The problem is that we don't diagnose it early, and it's hidden. And the people that you see die suddenly die from high blood pressure, from stroke. And that's why we need to organize our communities, our services, to diagnose these problems before they cause havoc.
Take a listen to what makes us get cardiovascular diseases.
Some are related to our nature. We are born with it. And some are related to our nurture, environment. We eat poorly, we exercise poorly, and so forth. So those are the two main things, environment and our heritage.
Cardiovascular diseases, a renowned cardiologist says, are preventable.
A lot of them are preventable. Exercise, diet, the right diet, not to smoke. Already exercise and diet can prevent a disease like diabetes, which is also a big risk factor for cardiovascular disease.
He dismisses the point on equipment for treatment, laying emphasis on people.
Let's talk about people. I just told you that the whole idea here is not equipment. Tomorrow you'll have a smartphone which will be able to tell you what your heart is doing, but you need somebody to treat the problem.
Cardiovascular diseases, according to medics, cost a lot of money to treat. They say the whole idea behind the diseases is to prevent them so we don't have to treat them.
And in a related development still on our health page, some medical practitioners in Douala are calling on the Cameroonian government to provide subvention for the treatment of kidney diseases in hospitals. They have disclosed that the treatment and follow-up process of kidney diseases is very expensive, amounting to over 110,000 francs CFA per month. Pamela Ndukong tells us more.
The treatment of kidney diseases in Cameroon is becoming unbearable and a huge burden to patients. Romil Simo is a patient. He tells us how expensive his treatments are, coupled with the fact that he is a student.
It's very difficult for me because the sickness is very more expensive.
A medical practitioner, Dr. Alet Gerardine, says that a presidential decree promised the creation of 10 hemodialysis centers in the country to treat kidney problems, with the main focus being kidney failure. But she says the follow-up is not sufficient because it's not the only requirement. Other medications have to be used. The whole treatment and follow-up process is expensive, running to over 110,000 francs a month. The cost is even higher in private hospitals. Dr. Gerardine ends by saying that there is a need for the government to provide subventions to hospitals. The theme for 2014 World Kidney Day is chronic kidney disease and aging. It's been organized by International Federation of Kidney Foundation. The focus of the campaign of this year is to raise awareness of how important our kidneys are and how to reduce the kidney disease.
Pamela Ndukong, and over there in Yaoundé, CPDM MPs and senators have been in a conclave today mapping out strategies on how to solve the alleged Cold War that is going on between members of the upper house of the Assembly and the lower house of the Assembly. Roland Akong tells more.
There is an alleged Cold War between the National Assembly and the Senate of Cameroon. Current, it is said, flows epileptically between both houses. The problem, it is said, follows the refusal last November of the Senate to defend its budget before the Finance and Budgetary Commission of the National Assembly. These to the embarrassment of MPs at the National Assembly. For a harmonious collaboration between parliamentarians of both houses, President Biya orders for a seminar grouping CPD and parliamentarians of both houses. He here outlines the content of the seminar.
We have 4 themes. The first theme deals with the complementarity and collaboration between both houses of parliament. The second theme deals with the contribution of our parliamentarians within the bicameral parliament to the great achievements of the head of state. And as they are not in charge of the implementation of national policy, the government is in charge of implementing national policy as defined by the head of state, we should make sure that they have a good and dynamic cooperation with our government.
The war between the Senate and the National Assembly, does it concern only parliamentarians of the governing CPDM party? That is the question on wagging tongues.
Many thanks with that report, and we talk some news on environment now, as the national ban on the use and production of non-biodegradable plastic bags approaches. The Minister for Environment, Nature Protection and Sustainable Development is in the Little region to hold consultative talks with stakeholders involved in the fabrication and importation of these non-biodegradable plastic bags. Of course, we shall be giving you details of his visit, especially as there will be a press conference tomorrow. A year after becoming the first non-European Pope in more than a millennium, the Argentine Pontiff, Pope Francis, continues to change the status quo of the Roman Catholic Church. He has decided to derail tradition by celebrating the first anniversary of his papacy outside the walls of the Holy See. Jacques Kwekingen now takes us 1 year back to Pope Francis' election.
He has spent his first year in office challenging Vatican customs, and he will celebrate the anniversary of his papacy in the same fashion as the first pope in decades to mark the occasion outside the Vatican walls. The first non-European pope in more than a millennium will spend a week of preaching and prayer at a retreat with the Roman Curia in a small town 15 miles from the Vatican. The decision to break the tradition by leading the Curia, the Vatican bureaucracy outside the Holy See, for his first 1 year anniversary evokes Francis's efforts to reform a church he has criticized for being insular. In the 12 months since he succeeded the conservative and traditional-bound Pope Benedict, Francis hasn't shield from challenging Vatican rules and Catholic customs. He travels in a Ford rather than a papal limousine. He lives in a guest house rather than the papal apartment. He raised traditionally eyebrows when, on a flight after a visit to Brazil, he was asked his opinion on homosexuality, and he answered, I quote, "Who am I to judge?" End of quote. The most important decisions that Pope Francis has made during his first year of office have revolved around the Vatican finances and the reform of the much criticized Vatican Bank. Francis has also remained curiously mum in public about official cover-ups and the persistent refusal by the Vatican to release details of its records of alleged molestation of minors by priests. All the same, with just 12 months in office, Pope Francis has already won for himself the admiration of millions of Catholics and also members of other religions and of no religion for his openness, his refusal to adhere to external trappings of papal power, frugal lifestyles, and the care for the poor at the Bull's Words in the Vatican today.
Thanks, Jackie Kwekinge. Pope Francis is a simple man who, after his inauguration, went around kissing and washing the feet of his people. However, many people think he has reserved his comments in certain burning issues concerning the Roman Catholic Church, especially the possibilities of Roman Catholic priests of getting married. Let's have details with Franz Venkat.
A stranger to the world 1 year ago, but the smoke rising from the Sistine Chapel heralded the arrival of the 266th Pope, ecstatically welcomed by the crowd.
Buonasera.
Pope Francis became the first Latin American pontiff. Until last year, he was Cardinal Jorge Bergoglio of Buenos Aires, where he was born 77 years ago. He went against the grain from the very start, washing the feet of a woman and a Muslim just 2 weeks after his election. He also set the tone for a humbler church, focused on helping the poor.
True power lies in service, and a pope must carry out work that is humble, concrete, especially for the poorest, the weakest and the youngest.
He's become known for his hands-on style, touching and kissing the sick. All this has won Pope Francis huge popularity, attracting crowds of over 3 million to Rio de Janeiro in July, and a steady stream of pilgrims to St. Peter's Square.
This is a religion that was losing followers, and thanks to his humility, his way of being, he has helped attract more people to the Roman Catholic religion.
Another boost in popularity came after hinting of a relaxation in stance on some of the Catholic Church's more divisive issues, like homosexuality. But some say he's heightened expectations for change so much that he's given himself a lot to live up to.
Sexual abuse of children by priests. The Pope has been very quiet on this. Up till now, he hasn't brought any women into any significant place in the Vatican or in any other parts of the church.
Though he may have much work ahead of him, he was named Person of the Year by Time magazine and has become one of the world's most iconic figures.
And with that, we stay with news south of the country, where Russian forces are in de facto control of Crimea, while forces of dissent in the autonomous Ukrainian region have been extinguished. Reports say there are rare supporters in Crimea who dare to voice a Ukrainian perspective, and reports also indicate that some local media have been held hostage by some pro-Crimean secessionists. Let's have details once more. Franz Venkat.
The heart of Russia today, a busy newsroom, studios outfitted with the latest equipment. Entirely funded by the Kremlin, there is no question about where the channel's loyalty lies. Here, journalists are constantly monitoring Western diplomacy.
There we go. NATO has decided to be friends with Ukraine.
In the news bulletin, the rise of neo-Nazism, a favorite topic.
These are some of the new masters of Ukraine, doing what they want.
Footage of a synagogue burning, and then the news the far right rules over Maidan. Yet a letter from Ukraine's Jewish community denouncing the Kremlin for lies did not make it on air. Peter Lavelle, an American anchor, cannot hide his love for Vladimir Putin.
President of the Russian Federation, who happens to be one of the most popular politicians in the world.
Lavelle presents Crosstalk, one of the channel's more controversial shows.
The EU and Washington engineered this coup and continued to drive events. You want to have what I always say the other side of the story. This reporting coming out of Western media is such a caricature, demonizing Russia. I think Western media has just gone hysterical. It's opinion television.
It's a trap he says Russia Today didn't fall into. Yet to bolster their editorial line, they've called on a string of dubious commentators like this man known for his conspiracy theories and Hollywood star Steven Seagal. These practices sparked a rebellion within Russia Today's ranks.
What Russia did is wrong. After this newscast, I'm resigning.
Management downplayed the actions as a publicity stunt. But on the editorial side, nothing has changed. More than 1,000 people work for Russia Today around the world, and their message continues to reach millions.
And that does it for the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinox Television with the voice of the newsroom. Thanks for watching. Good night.